Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for Mercury and Taurus, and Mercury is very close to the Sun. So your Mercury would either have to be in the same sign as your Sun sign. So in this case, your Sun must be either in Taurus, Gemini, or the sign behind Taurus, which is Aries. And if you're not quite sure where yours is, please check below. Astro.com is a site that I use, and you just put in your information and you can find out where it is. So let's talk about what Mercury represents in terms of how it functions and how it plays into our influences, astrological influences, I should say. So Mercury is about communication, and this means how you talk. Does everybody talk in the same style? Do we talk at the same rate of speed? No. Do we have the same style of speaking? No, we don't. Some people are very matter-of-fact, like Mercury and Taurus, and some people do what I call gilding the lily, like Gemini, Mercury and Gemini, where they kind of like love to use a lot of, well, that might be Mercury and Aries. A lot of exaggeration, a lot of, but Mercury and Gemini might be kind of more verbose than Mercury and Taurus. But anyway, there are different styles, and there's also different ways of thinking. Okay, taking in information, what you think about, all of these things are connected to Mercury. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So Taurus is a sign that is, I call it a meat and potatoes kind of a sign, where it's very straightforward. It's the first earth sign. So the first 4 signs of the zodiac represent the first 4 representations of their particular element. And in terms of Taurus being an earth sign, it's very basic. And that's not a bad thing, because there is a certain authenticity that people with a personal planet or personal point in Taurus give off. So the sun will have its own. I have Taurus rising. So I know a little bit about what Taurus represents. The moon in Taurus. All of these things are uncomplicated. People are not trying to figure out what a Mercury and Taurus person is talking about, because they will tend to talk in a very plain-spoken style. Because it's a fixed earth sign, Taurus has a stable mind. Okay, I'm just going to shorten it to Taurus, but I mean Mercury and Taurus. Has a stable mind. Now, if the person has a sun in Gemini, which can be kind of ADD and flighty, this can anchor the mind. Interestingly, Bob Dylan, who is a Gemini, albeit very close to the cusp of Taurus, has Mercury in Taurus. And actually, I was quite shocked when I found that out, because I figured since he wrote, especially, back in the early to mid 60s, some of these masterpieces where they were very long stanzas and all that stuff, I was surprised that he had Mercury in Taurus. But this is an example of why we have to look at the chart as a whole, because that alone would not describe Mercury in Taurus. But I've seen interviews with him, and he talks very sparingly. I mean, it's almost like he's catatonic in a sense. And it's like, how can this be the same person that wrote all of that? Because it doesn't even seem like the same person. So a Mercury and Taurus person may be a man or woman of few words. Again, there may be some other factor that makes them a little bit more talkative, and of course, women tend to talk more than men. I mean, I think men are socialized not to really talk. And if they do talk about just what they're interested in, certainly not talking about their feelings like a woman would typically do. So you might have that, what do they call that, the strong silent type, with a male who is Mercury in Taurus. And this is an important thing, because if you are a partner of somebody like this and you are more talkative, this kind of person might actually drive you nuts. And that might be the deal breaker in the relationship. It's really funny because sometimes when I'm out and about, I notice people, like if I'm sitting in a cafe, I notice like other couples where they're barely talking. And I mean, my partner and I both have Mercury in Sagittarius, so we can talk for hours. And I think about those kinds of people, and I think, how do they survive? I mean, how does their relationship survive? But maybe both of them are comfortable with that silence. Or maybe the one that's more talkative accepts this type of person, like a Mercury and Taurus person. But that's something to be aware of if you are a Mercury and Taurus, that you should, get with somebody who is kind of like you, who can appreciate silence and doesn't always need to talk, because they could drive you crazy if they're always trying to yammer away. So the beautiful thing about Mercury in Taurus, besides its authenticity in speech, is its stability, okay, and its constructive mind, okay? A Mercury in Taurus person is not interested in abstract thought. It doesn't want to think, what if, we went to Venus and we had this ship and we were able to... Mercury in Taurus is interested in the here and now, what is in front of us. And therefore, because it has that type of mind, it can ground its plans into reality. Okay? That's all well and good to think up these fanciful things, but does it have any practical value to your life? We live here. We don't live on Venus. So that's one of the reasons why I think a Mercury and Taurus person, they may not be the most original thinkers in the world or in the zodiac, but they're among the most constructive, because they are actually thinking of things that have a purpose right here, right now. And along the same lines of that, as I said, they have a stable mind, so it's not jumping around to different things, and that can, be focus. That can lead to focus. Any sign that's a fixed sign for a Mercury can have good focus because they stay with whatever their topic is, their subject. And they're also matter of fact. So they are, again, looking at life as it is, not as they necessarily want it to be. Common sense is apparent here. Common sense, they say common sense is not that common. And it's interesting to me from my own perspective, like knowing who I am and thinking, do I have common sense? I think mostly I do, but there are times when somebody will point something out to me, or I will be, reading something, and I'll think, yeah, that really makes sense. And it's very practical, but it's also very helpful, okay? And this is something that is very easy for other people to not value, because it's so subtle in a sense. It's not flashy. If somebody isn't coming up with these brilliant ideas, they don't really garner a lot of attention. And yet it's the common sense people like Mercury and Taurus who make the world go round. And this is one of the things that I think is very important to note, because sometimes other people can discard the observations of somebody like this because it's not sexy enough. It's not sparkly enough, but it gets the job done. And that's the important thing. There's a calm speech pattern with Mercury and Taurus. The individual may speak even a little bit slower than normal. I bet it would be great for ASMR, because actually, I didn't notice this when I was reading up on these different traits, but I'm just injecting this here, that people with Taurus tend to have a good speaking voice. I don't see why this would not be for Mercury and Taurus, because Taurus rules the throat, and then you also have the connection with Venus, the ruler, which is musical. So people, I would say, even with a Mercury in Taurus, may have a musical sounding voice, even when they speak normally, and that can be very appealing to others. Now let's talk about some of the possible challenges with this sign, or this planet and sign. Because Taurus is a fixed sign, there can be a lot of stubbornness, intellectual stubbornness. And it could even be, I would even dare say, a lack of wanting to learn things because of already having made up one's mind. I could see like an anti-intellectual bias within this sign. Going back to myself being a Taurus rising and having a sun in Sagittarius, which I would say is intellectual, when I went back to college in my 30s, I noticed that kind of lingo that they use, that they use in academia and in the academic literature. And I was thinking to myself, this is crap. This is real crap. Why can't they just say what they want to say in simple language? And I think that was the Taurus in me speaking up. Now, I think that was actually good of me to think like that. But sometimes it can veer too much into the direction of being against learning new things at all. Having such a rigid mentality that whatever it is that becomes all you care about, and you really not having that intellectual curiosity beyond maybe one pet topic or a couple of them. And that leads to a narrow mind. And it also can actually lead to prejudice, because if a Mercury in Taurus, and this will extend to the other fixed signs, Scorpio is a big one with this too. If you have experiences with a certain group of people, and this doesn't have to be just race, by the way. This could be, this could be ethnicity, this could be age, a certain age group, a certain gender. It could be anything. And if you have this mentality that they did you wrong in some way, you could just decide that they're all bad and just case closed, like Archie Bunker, case closed. And that's it. And that could lead to having a very narrow life. The life of the mind can be glorious. It can be something that you find an endless source of pleasure if you allow yourself to open up to it. And so that's one thing. The other thing is stubborn thoughts in general, being obsessed or fixated on something. So this could be on a person, on an idea that, if something bothers you, just kind of obsessing on it and having a hard time going away from it. Again, I think that meditation in general for everyone is helpful in dissolving some of these traits that lead to the mind working against you. And let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I think that's about it. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, it's kind of a neutral thing, although some people might find it annoying, is that because you're coming from a mentality that is earthy, you might, and Taurus rules the second house of earned income, so money in general, possessions, self-esteem, but that's not really the main focus, I think, of the second house. It's more about the moolah. And you might be the kind of person who likes to talk about money and your possessions, the latest possession you have. And some people may be just like you, and they may follow along and give you their latest status on their possessions. But some people may be bored by that, or they may think it's gauche or, tacky to talk about money in that way. So, but this is where you're oriented, again, with practical things. Well, money is tangible. Your toys and your other possessions are tangible. So that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you'd like a personal astrological reading, please click on the link below. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Take care. Bye.